It is quite the challenge to explore the depths of the sea in person, and when this team realized what they were witnessing, it was already too late. The deeper you go, the more beautiful things you find, and we've seen so many things that were new to us. The Macon crew were out on the sea when they came across something they would never have expected. Stay tuned, and you'll find out what happened when this crew realized they were seeing something they shouldn't have. It culminated in an escape just in time. There's a similar story we want to tell you before we get to the tale of the Macon crew. On the morning of November 14, 1963, off the south coast of Iceland, a trawler boat had spotted a column of dark smoke rising from the surface of the sea. The ship's captain thought it was a fishing boat on fire and turned his vessel to investigate. However, as they got closer, they were witness to the most extraordinary sight. They gasped in awe as a volcano erupted and a new island formed beneath their eyes. They anchored to watch this tremendous event. The island that was created was called Surtsey, but its birth was no accident. Its eruption was part of Earth's pattern. Below the Atlantic Ocean runs a sea where two of the Earth's plates are tearing apart. Along the splitting sea, new land is being created. 16 black rocks known as the Westman Islands have all been formed from the sea the same way as Surtsey. Just like all islands, Surtsey was formed in an underwater volcano eruption, which began at a depth of 130 meters in the Norwegian Sea. Molten lava kept piling up at the bottom, and a mountain began to rise until it broke the surface. The day in November. In only a few days after the island was born, it measured over 500 meters in length and reached 45 meters high. The island was named after Sir Turner, who was a fire god from Norse mythology. 3 weeks after the island was discovered, 3 French journalists braved themselves to set foot on it. They remained there for 15 minutes before a violent explosion caused them to flee. They didn't try to conquer it. Iceland asserted control over Surtsey while the volcano continued to erupt and the island kept growing. Eruption finally stopped on the 5th of June, 1967. The island grew to 2.7 square kilometers and its highest point was 174 meters above sea. However, since the eruption stopped, the island has been diminishing as it's made mostly from a loose pile of volcanic rock, which is being eroded by the North Atlantic. Since 2012, the surface level has halved and the maximum elevation has fallen to 155 meters. The island is expected to last another 100 years. However, scientists expect the rate of erosion to slow down over the years as the tougher core of the island, made of hard lava flow, is exposed, so certainly could survive for many centuries. Scientists find it fascinating how the island is slowly being colonized by plants and birds. The first plants were found growing on the shores in 1965. In the 20 years after that, over 20 species of plants were observed there. Only about half of the species survived in the nutrients for sandy soil. Once birds arrived to the island and started nesting, their droppings fertilized the soil and plants began to survive. There were 69 species of plants recorded in 2008. 12 species are now found regularly on the island today. Seals, puffins, orcas, slugs, spiders, and beetles are all found there. To allow the island's biology to grow naturally without human intervention, very few people are given permission to land on the island. Since 1965, the island has been a nature reserve in the UNESCO and World Heritage Site. Surtsey is one of the world's youngest islands. It is one of the most famous of the islands known to have emerged from below the sea surface in living memory. Before we dive into our last story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon on. We don't really think about it daily, but the Earth is still changing all the time. It just happens so slowly that we can't really perceive it, but every now and then things speed up a lot. Let's dive into our last story. We might not realize it in front of our eyes, but the Earth is still changing all the time. It just happens so slowly that we can't really perceive it. Every now and then things speed up. Stay tuned to find out what happened when this boat crew realized what they were seeing. It was almost too late to escape. In August 2006, the crew of the Macon was enjoying a leisurely sail through the South Pacific when they spotted a strange discoloration in the water between the Vava Islands and Tonga. Instead of the familiar deep blue of the open ocean, the waters surrounding the Macon were lagoon green. After 5 miles, they noticed brown, somewhat grainy streaks in the water. At first, they thought that it might have been due to an old oil dumping, some ship cleaning its tank, but the streak became larger and more frequent after a while. And there were rock-like brownish things. the size of a fist floating in the sea. Then as the vessel continued westward, the surface of the ocean inexplicably turned to stone. They looked out, and it was as if in front of them there was no more sea. It was like the Sahara with rolling hills of sand as far as the eye could see, but the Macon hadn't run around. Instead, she had sailed into a massive raft of floating pumice stone. Often in the South Pacific, you have clouds on the horizon, but this time there was one that stood out. The crew saw a black pillar shooting up into the air and understood that it had to be a volcano. The crew cautiously navigated their way towards the smoke, where the chart said there should be an underwater seamount called Home Reef. The field of pumice was getting much larger as they passed through it. The crew had an uneasy feeling, and up their speed was their intuition was trying to tell them something. Once they were a safe distance away, they heard a faint rumbling. Looking back, they saw water bubbling from the surface. They anchored to watch this tremendous event, massive plumes of smoke in the sky. As the smoke cleared, they noticed something strange just at the water surface. The crew were curious to watch the entire event, so they got their cameras ready and captured photos of the smoke. The source of the pumice stone was an underwater volcano that was actually erupting at the time. As the smoke cleared, they noticed something coming out of the sea. But what was it? It looked like a beach in the middle of the ocean. The boat crew decided to sail through it, leaving a break in the stone behind them as they went. They wondered what could have caused the expanse of stone to suddenly appear. As they got closer, what they had taken to be a sandbar revealed itself to be something else entirely. The stunned crew couldn't believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. It was the birth of a new island. They sailed a little bit closer to see if their eyes were playing tricks on them. They found an island growing one explosion at a time. It looked like coal, and when there was interruption, they could see the new material piling up on it. The boat crew realized it was real when the Macon crew posted their observations online. Scientists jumped at their startling discovery. Undersea eruptions occurred dozens of times per year, but they are mostly in remote places or at extreme depths, so they are rarely witnessed by humans. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory went to the island and collected some satellite data. NASA's Aster and MODIS instruments captured bird's eye view of the new island, allowing researchers to gauge the temperature of the heated water surrounding it and track the giant pumice rafts that the volcano had spewed out. It was the first time scientists had ever been able to study an island-forming eruption with images from space. It was a momentous occasion for them to be a part of. Volcanologist Scott Bryan of Kingston University in London was craving for a research expedition to the island before it disappeared. Many new volcanic islands are fleeting, lasting only months before disappearing, again, under the sea. It's a battle between the frequency and volume of eruptions and the wave action taking it back down to sea level. The type of material that erupts also affects an island's lifespan. True lava forms more enduring structures, just like the island we heard about previously, Surtsey in ice, which broke through the surface waters in 1963 and remains exposed today. While islands of mostly pumice and ash are quickly torn down by the waves that didn't bode well for the Macon's crew find. When Scott finally reached a site in February 2007, he found that the new island that was originally over a tenth of a square mile had already nearly washed away. The rotten egg smell of sulfur dioxide gas hinted that magma was still cooling inside. Sea conditions were unfortunately too rough to make landfall. However, one of the crew was able to collect water samples near the volcano for chemical analysis. He found shallow cement are all that remains of the surprise island at Home Reef. The yacht Macon cut through a giant pumice raft during the eruption, though the exposed island existed only for a few months. The eruption may have a lasting biological impact. Pumice rafts remain afloat for years, becoming home to barnacles, corals, algae, oysters, tube worms, and even the odd anemone. In April 2007, 8 months after the eruption, pumice from Home Reef that had been heavily colonized by such organisms washed up in Queensland, Australia, more than 2,000 miles away. The diversity of the famed Great Barrier Reef in Australia may be stalked in part by peace stairways from eruptions in different waters. Regardless, it's an amazing interaction of all these different aspects of Earth and surface processes, which are so dependent on one another. The Macon crew were ever so lucky not to mention brave for that day in 2006, not only because they were able to witness such an unforgettable sight, but also because they appeared to have very narrowly escaped with their lives. What would you do if you saw an island being born? Tell us in the comments below. We love hearing what you have to say. See you next time.